Those who come to me and say, I work 15 hours a day, I say, I'm not interested. I'm interested in the quality of working hours, not the quantity. I'm assuming here he's saying I'm interested in the brain of the human being. Do you think that during those first 5 hours of the day, you are the same as you are in the last 5 hours? No way. You're tired, and if you're tired, you stop listening, and the decisions you make are risky. I feel like that is a great quote to start off this video. Now, we are going to talk a bit about leveraging the 1 hour in a day that you have, because the main problem that we're facing here is everyone is immersed in this hustle culture and becoming an entrepreneur or starting your own business and thinking that you have to work 8 to 12 hours a day like people say they do online. Or you compare yourself to someone that is so far ahead of you, like Sam Altman or Elon Musk, and it's like, well, they were in the factories working 12, 16 hours a day, sleeping there. You don't have that kind of time. You have responsibilities, you have schooling, you have whatever you're doing that takes up 8 to 10 hours a day already. And after that time, you're just drained. I actually remember going home from work and trying to go to the gym after work when I would normally go in the morning, and the workouts just sucked. And it pissed me off even more because then I have to go home in rush hour after that, get home, not have any time on my hands, and life just sucked all around. So I want to teach you how to leverage the minimum amount of time you have, like any other person that builds a business from scratch, because that's all the time they have. They don't have 12 to 15 hours a day to do that. They have 1 hour a day. I'm gonna teach you how to use that 1 hour a day, and we're gonna talk about various other things in between. This isn't necessarily a deep work routine video, more as how to just tap into the universal principle that is leverage. Person A can work 12 hours a day and make $50,000 a year. Person B can work 1 hour a day and make $5 million a year. The difference is skill, leverage, and understanding, not how hard, long, or organized you work. Please hammer this into your head. You see entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are generalists. They are problem solvers. They have dominion over everything that they run, like a well-oiled machine. The entrepreneur's entire goal that they're working towards is to reduce the hours they work. So when you see someone making 5 to 10 million with a reasonable lifestyle business, some of them don't even work. They don't have to work. Many of them choose to work because they want to. So just knowing that those kinds of people are out there means that it's possible and that it's probably replicable and that you can probably do the same. And to think that working hard for 12 hours on a replaceable task under a boss and not taking control of every single thing that would make you the boss and make you the money is kind of foolish. And you are going to be trapped in that $50,000 to maybe $300,000 range for most of your life. And you are not going to get out of that unless you choose to be an entrepreneur, because that is the only way that you can tap into a broader sense of leverage. Yes, you can use leverage in your work to do better work, but what about leverage in your life? Entrepreneurship is the first step to unlocking that leverage. I personally made the most money in my life when I was working 2 to 4 hours a day, just because I had leverage locked down. When I went to build other things like Cortex or new products or other things like that, that's when I would have to work longer because I'm building something new until that system is built, and then I can just maintain that system. And that takes less time to maintain a system rather than build the system. So the majority of my days, I'd say 90% of my days throughout my entire time being an entrepreneur, I've spent less than or 2 to 4 hours a day actually working. Other times I work more. Most of the time I work 2 to 4 hours a day because that's all it takes. I'm gonna tell you how. I was able to work 2 to 4 hours a day because I was quick to identify what my highest leverage tasks were. Most people have difficulty finding what these tasks are because cultural beliefs are still dominated by the oldest generations. This is just a thing. This is how values and beliefs evolve on a global or cultural or societal scale, is that the oldest generations, their beliefs, once they crystallize around the age of 25, because that's when various studies have shown that your belief system kind of becomes ideology to you, it becomes dogma to you, and you don't navigate out of that very often. Once that happens, that's what goes on to shape the schools, government, policy, other things like that, and just parents raising children. So they're raised in that belief system, and that dominates society for a long amount of time. The reason I'm saying this is because what I'm saying wouldn't have even been possible around 20 years ago. Technology has evolved where we have tools at our disposal. That's what makes humans so powerful in being generalists, is that we build tools so that we don't go extinct. Animals niche down into specific environments, and that's what allows them to survive unless they over-specialize. We'll talk about this in another video so that you don't go extinct. Maybe that's a good title for the video. But computers and animals niche down. Humans are generalists because they build the tools that allow them not to go extinct. If an animal can't hunt for food with its physical abilities, then it's going to go extinct. A human, on the other hand, builds something that allows them to hunt for food in their environment. Now, you have technology, software, things like a camera, that you may not see the depth and meaning behind and how it allows you to survive better in the age that we're in. And if you aren't leveraging technology, modern skill acquisition, etc., then you're going to be a part of the systems that were built previously by prior generations, like the school system, and relying on someone else to make you an income rather than you doing it yourself. Now, I was a rebel as a teenager, and I know that a lot of you were too. That's why you follow me, because we resonate. The reason I say that is because I noticed this opportunity rather early. You probably did too. It explains why many 16 to 25-year-olds who haven't had a crystallized identity yet are making absurd amount of money just by posting TikToks and sending the traffic to a dropshipping product that they made. Not that I recommend doing that, but people are making millions doing that. And if I can do something I enjoy and control how much time I work in that throughout my day, that's a success for me. I don't need to make billions upon billions of dollars. I just want to make a good amount of money and be able to control my day, work on what I want, enjoy my life, focus on other areas like health, relationships, other things. I don't want to become over-specialized in one like business while detrimenting my health, other things like that. Aside from the point, let's continue. I started freelancing because I wanted to control my time. I realized that once I made that a success with a lot of trial and error and failure, that I still didn't control my time. I had 5 to 10 bosses instead of one. They were called clients. Then I saw the opportunity of social media, in that I could build an audience to attract clients or potentially create products to sell through an audience. I acted as a one-person media company with the tools available to me now in this generation. The one-person business is a prime example of how generalists are thriving in this age, aka a creator or one-person media company. So I started writing on social media. If you go look at my social media, you know what I mean. I write stuff on Twitter, and my newsletter, I repurpose that to YouTube, to Instagram, all platforms. It starts with writing, and then I incorporate video where I need to, like YouTube. Then along the way, to get out of client work, I built digital products like ebooks, courses, templates, planners, systems, and new software, like a software that I'm building now. So people ask how I earn a few million a year working on average 2 to 4 hours a day. I don't feel like it's too hard to wrap your head around. Over 5 years, I've grown to millions of followers on social media, meaning I have traffic, I have people buy products, people love to buy things. Some people love to increase their value. They like to learn new skills. They're like me. I am the niche. You are the niche. I sell to people that are like myself by teaching them the skills I've learned under my own brand. So when I sell an ebook or a course or a template, it's usually I'm selling something that I've already bought from someone else, but I'm creating it in the way that I want to create it. So if I have millions of people following me and I charge $150 to however much for a product and a certain amount of people buy that, that equals millions of dollars. It's not that hard. That's what happens when you're an entrepreneur and you're in control of customer acquisition and the product itself and all of the skills in between, like marketing, sales, and operations. So across many platforms, I did some rough math and I get around 10 to 20 million impressions per month. So if I convert a fraction of that number on a $150 product, or even my book, a $28 product, I'll let you try to do the math on that and just see how it works out. Now do the math for yourself. How long is it going to take you to learn social media so that you can generate a certain amount of impressions and learn how to send it to a landing page and a product and add a buy button there so people can actually pay you for the value that you're creating? Now, before we dig into the 3 forms of leverage, I just want to update you once again. Mental monetization, my new course drops on June 3rd. It goes over how to monetize your creative work with a digital product. So things that I'm talking about now, how to launch and build a product using the knowledge inside of your head. And as we'll find, just a heads up, yes, I'm creating content around the course right now. So not only am I educating you based on things around it, but it's all based around the course. So if you want to learn some things going on in the future, we're going to talk about digital products a bit. Yes, it's related to my product. Do you have to buy my product? No, I'm just letting you know that what's coming. I'm going to teach you a bit about digital products because they are the highest form of leverage. That's why I created the course. I'm not just creating things that don't matter. So, as many of you know, Naval Ravikant has had a major impact on my life and the way that I view the world. And I've been revisiting some of his best ideas, and I came across this one recently, which was just the 3 forms of leverage. The first is labor, the second is capital, the third is products with no marginal cost of replication. To start, why should you care about leverage when it comes to changing your life? Because getting rich is about knowing what to do, who to do it with, and when to do it. And if you only have 1 hour in the day, that becomes even more important because you need to know what to work on, who to work with, and how both of those fit into the puzzle piece that is the digital world. So the first form of leverage is labor as leverage. Labor was useful in the past, but today it's not so much because this is the main problem on everyone's mind right now with AI and automation is labor jobs are being phased out because labor, almost by definition, is hyper specialization. Because if everyone's doing labor, they're all focusing on one thing. They're not learning a variety of skills. They're not managing people under them. They aren't necessarily generalists, and therefore computers or robots will be the first. Those will be the first things that they do. I personally believe that the universe or evolution has been solving this problem for the longest time. People don't like to work. It's obvious. That is, they don't like to work when it feels like work. They want to work as a necessary balance to the rest in their life, and we call that their life's work or meaningful work, and that is up to you to choose and use as a creative challenge for yourself. It continuously evolves. That's how you know something is an infinite game versus a finite game, is you create the rules of the game and you can continue creating the rules of the game so that there is no end. You'd never win, and therefore you never lose. You just play. So when work and rest collapse, they turn into play. The thing here, labor as leverage means that you employ someone to work for you. The other thing here that Naval brings up is that everyone nowadays wants to be the top player. They want to be the top monkey. Everyone wants equity and everyone doesn't want to do that much work and they want massive salaries while not really doing anything. So it's just all a volatile status game. The second thing here is that more people are being turned on to entrepreneurship. And another quote of Naval's is that there are 7 billion people on this planet. Someday I hope there are 7 billion companies. I personally see this as a thing. It's emergent with the creator economy in that everyone can talk about what they want, do what they want. Nature will kind of filter people out into the interests that they enjoy that are complementary to everyone. That's how synergy or unification is created on the internet, by people just leaning into their nature, pursuing their curiosity, and distributing the value and goods as AI takes out the problems that we don't want to solve as humans from under us. Now, that's kind of a pipe dream, I'll admit, but I think it's a good vision to work towards because you don't predict the future, you create it. And I like working towards this vision for the future. Hopefully you do too, because it benefits us. There's going to be caveats, of course. We'll move on. Actually, we're not going to move on because I didn't finish that point. We're going to talk about and hit on the point that people know that they can learn anything, build anything, and actually create an income for themselves on the internet because the tools and resources are so readily available and efficient for them. With something like real estate, where it's a physical resource. It's scarce. It's not efficient. It's not cost friendly to you. In the digital space, things are very affordable. They're very accessible. You can use the software and do so much with it. You can purchase courses at a fraction of the cost of college curriculums. People are worried. Some very few people, idiots, frankly, are worried about scams because they're the ones that get scammed. And then they're very vocal. It's like the vocal minority. But the space has progressed and evolved, and a lot of the courses that you'll get nowadays are pretty freaking decent. And if that, like, nothing's stopping you from getting a refund on most of them. Like, if you don't like it or you get quote unquote scammed because most of the time you just don't do the work, or you buy it thinking that, oh, if I pay $35, I'm gonna make $1 million, there's refunds. Like, the financial system is there. So labor can still work. Obviously, people still have employees. I don't actually have employees. I have contractors. And I only have like one under my actual business, my one-person business, the personal brand. I have one contractor, editor. Cortex is also contractors for now, so we don't necessarily have employees. We have a bunch of one-person businesses coming together. That's kind of what the creator economy is. Second form of leverage is capital as leverage. Capital is a more recent invention when labor has been around since forever. In essence, capital as leverage means that you can spend money to make more money. You can invest in businesses, real estate, stocks, or crypto. You can invest in resources that take work off your hands. You can invest in information that allows you to avoid costly mistakes, make better decisions, and become more efficient with your time. You spend money to make money. The problem is that most people are broke in more areas than finances. They don't have enough money to invest in assets that pay them back an actual reasonable amount. We're going to talk about this in a future video in like a week from now. But I remember when my mom would always tell me to just invest, even if it's like $1 for a year, then that'll turn into $1 billion in the future. And I still feel like that's the dominant cultural paradigm that a lot of children are indoctrinated into, and they just waste the last of their pennies to make a few million when they're like 40 years old, when it's like, dude, just start a business, learn some skills, like create value, live a meaningful life, and get paid more than $1 million a year by doing so. And then you have money to invest down the road to make however much you want in the future through investing. And you get to live a good life along the way. You're not wasting all of your money you're not wasting the entire 40 years of your life just to then live. So we'll talk about that more in another video. Let's get on to the third form of leverage, which is digital products as leverage. First, let's go over 2 quotes from Balaji. It's a digital first world. Physical is now a premium product. Physical, then digital, then native digital. Think about those for a second as we dig into this. First, what is a product? A product is an item, good, or creation that people can consume. A product is what stands between the consumer and the creator. Physical products have their limits like shipping costs, manufacturing costs, and entropy costs like perishable goods and books that get beat up. A digital product, on the other hand, falls in line with Naval's definition of no marginal cost of replication. A digital product is the epitome of build once, sell twice from Jack Butcher. That's a quote of his. Digital products include, but are not limited to, code, movies, articles, podcasts, content, newsletters, courses, ebooks. In a nutshell, it's media and code. And all of these can be monetized, like something like a paid newsletter or podcast or movie or book or whatever. But of course, all of those aren't the most profitable way of going about things. Some of them are better given for free. Some of them are better given paid, like a course, ebook, etc., where there's more depth of knowledge rather than something like a post on social media, obviously. Some people have luck doing that. I don't recommend it as a way to go. But my advice there is to not necessarily only listen to me or be dogmatic about what I say, and to do what makes you the most curious. Do what you want so that you can make mistakes and correct those mistakes, because that is going to be a faster route to success than listening to me and making a success and then blaming it on me and then quitting altogether. The thing here is that I personally think the media side of things is more important than the code side of things, where I believe I can just kind of sense that Naval is more on the code side of things than the media side of things. With code, we've built no-code tools to allow the everyday individual to really leverage media. Social media, as an example, you can post and attract an audience of hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands. It doesn't even matter. 10,000 people, 10,000 audience is a lot of people. So in terms of reaching the goal of making money, I personally think media is more important so you can attract an audience, and it doesn't cost anything to create a knowledge product or a digital product like a course or a book or something that is so readily accessible. You don't need a publisher anymore. You just go to Amazon KDP. You upload your book file, they print it on demand and send it to your customer. Of course, you get absolutely terrible royalties doing that, but it's still an option. And that's what I mean is that we're paying a lot every week for the development of Cortex. So if you don't want to learn to code and you don't have that much manpower to create a massive app, then I personally recommend going the media route, building courses and other things until you generate cash flow, and then you can evolve into something that demands more cash from you that you can turn into a bigger business. So as a beginner, I don't think it's wise to become a startup idea junkie and waste your entire life doing that and potentially getting nowhere because the failure rate is so high. Just start with something that is completely within your control. And if you have a brain, you can usually iterate your way to replacing your own income at very minimum with media and courses, books, knowledge work, posts on social media, building an audience, etc. Then get startup obsessed. Another thing there is that I can attract an audience with media and get sponsorships. There is almost a guaranteed way to monetize with an audience. With code, I can build the app, but I don't have the marketing know-how or the audience. I can't get users if I don't have that side down. So that's why I believe media is the more important skill to go after. Now, how do we actually make the most of our knowledge now? We understand leverage. We understand that digital products are the highest form of leverage. We understand that media is one of the best skills to learn and leverage going into the future to take control of your life. So what do we actually do? Step one, in my eyes, is to build when psychic entropy is low. A quick thing on psychic entropy is that entropy is things tending toward disorder. Psychic entropy is your mind tending toward disorder. This is why we crave order, we crave security, we crave comfort, we crave goals and the clarity to achieve the goals. That's why you go to school, get a job, and continue going to that job regardless of how unfulfilling it is. You surround yourself with the same physical and digital information that confirms who you currently are, not who you want to be. So follow new people if you want to begin reprogramming your mind. And anything outside of what you believe is seen as a threat, and you have an emotional mind-closing reaction that prevents you from seeing any truth in any situation. And when you study human nature, you understand that understanding this concept is what separates the lions from the sheep. The 1% from the 99% is that the 1% consistently throw themselves into the unknown to put their mind in this absorption state, this learning state, to discover new things, because that's what education is. It's discovery. It's not memorization. It's not conformity. It's not conditioning. It's discovery, and the only place you can discover things is the unknown, not the known. So if you work a job for however long, you're not learning anything new in that domain of life. That's just a rant on entropy, psychic entropy. But it's so important to understand that you need to use entropy to your advantage. You need to use the flow state and the clarity that comes from the known and focusing. But you also need to leverage opening yourself up and expanding your mind to new discoveries along the way throughout your day. Getting into what to actually do. If you can spend 8 hours building someone else's dreams, you can spend 1 hour building your own. You only have 1 hour in the day. And to me, it's silly to save that time, that 1 hour, for after work or after your responsibilities when you're making risky decisions and you are tired and other things. When entropy is high, when your mind is already done, it doesn't have the energy to focus. So success is about entropy management, and entropy is low in the morning. You need to know how to release and constrain entropy in your days, weeks, months, and years. You need to release entropy when life gets boring and repetitive by setting and pursuing new goals. You need to constrain entropy when life gets overwhelming by deconstructing those goals into smaller, more clear, manageable goals. Wake up 1 hour earlier is what I've been getting to this entire time. Focus on 1 to 3 lever-moving tasks toward a goal that you set for yourself. And I'm assuming that this goal is going to be based around making more money because that's what's on everyone's mind. People suppress that. They're like, oh, money's evil, money's bad. Why am I thinking about money so much? When that's, in today's world, the thing that leads to you being able to improve other areas of your life. Of course, you can improve them without money, but it's so much easier to improve your relationships, your health, everything with money. To a certain extent. You don't have to go overboard, but I promise it's like when people say, oh, I don't want to go to the gym because I'm going to get too big. That's not going to happen. Oh, I don't want to start a business because I'm afraid I'm just going to make too much money and become addicted to it. That's what we're all trying to do, dude. Start the business. You're not going to make too much money. So wake up an hour earlier and do the work. 1 to 3 lever moving tasks. Point number 2 that I just want to touch on is productivity and creativity blocks, the balance of those. Fill your brain in the afternoons with books, learning, and socialization. Empty your brain before bed with journaling, planning, and meditation. Use your brain in the morning with creation, output, and focus. I personally like to oscillate between 2 macro states of consciousness in the morning, which is productivity and creativity. I like to focus for that first 1 to 2 hours, and I like to go on a walk, take a break, release a bit, think about the intention for the next work block, go into it. Do the same thing, repeat until I go to the gym, and throughout this entire time, I'm releasing entropy. The first work block is very dedicated, no phone, straight to writing. After the walk and on the walk, I'm listening to things, listening to ideas, and then when I get back, I'm doing things like email and maintenance work. So I'm interacting with people in my business. Then after that, it's like, okay, full blown, I'm messaging people during the day, et cetera, et cetera. But then when I go to the gym, that's a hard cutoff time for a lot of that busyness. That's like a hard reset. I go to the gym, then I get home, and it's like, okay, I can read a book for a bit. I can do a bit of work if I want. I do whatever I want because the 2 to 4 hours a day, I've manage everything. Me going to the gym is like the Parkinson's law of my work, where at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whatever time I go to the gym, I need to finish my work before then because I know that I'm not going to want to do it after. I'm going to be tired. Of course, sometimes I work after that, especially when the pressure is high, mainly when the pressure is high. It's like working like a lion to go and hunt when you're hungry. If I'm not really forced to do the work in the afternoon, then I'm not going to do it. And I usually procrastinate until I have to do it, and then the work gets done pretty well. Step number 3 is understanding the levers of the new rich. You have 2 priorities. The first is audience, which is building an audience of people to remove your dependency on your employer, government, and any other centralized entity that controls most aspects of your life. Now, some people will argue, well, social media is a centralized entity. You have these big social media companies that have your information, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, but there's no real solution yet where you can build an audience outside of that, aside from an email list. So if you build a newsletter, an email list, which is what I teach in 2 Hour Writer or the Writer's Bootcamp for Cortex, that's how you transfer your audience off platform so that you can't get deplatformed because you have those emails. The second lever is product. So building a product so people can give you money in exchange for something that benefits their lives. This is the only way to take control of your income and stop relying on anyone else to make you money. This is what I teach in the new course, Mental Monetization. So both of those courses are complementary. If you want to build a product to actually monetize your creative work, that's the option. If you want to build an audience, 2 Hour Writer. To go along with this, I find it quite funny that all beginners ask, how do I make money? That's just been a thought in their mind. And when they're given the answer for almost literally the only way to make money, they don't do it and they go and chase something else. They go and chase a method that is reserved for people with money because they think they can make a lot of money there, like crypto, investing, real estate, other things. You need money to actually make substantial money from those things. So the answer is you make money by starting a business. You make money by distributing a product with a price tag on it. Thinking that you don't have to build a product is foolish. I know some of you will only understand this if I'm harsh with you. So please, if you still don't know how to make money yet, now is your chance to listen. The only way to make money outside of ways where you need money to make money is to build a product and get it in front of people so that they can purchase that product. Then and only then, once you have a minimum of $20,000 to $50,000 a month in revenue, should you even think about investing that money as capital, you'll still make more money if you just invest that money back into the business. Just focus on cash flow, please. Making more money will solve 99% of your problems relating to money. So, freelancing, agency work, information products, I don't care. I recommend what I recommend and what I teach, but do whatever you want under the umbrella of generalized principles relating to how to make money. We live in a digital world with more resources, more efficiency, and lower costs so more people can generate wealth in that space, the digital space. Step 4 is to just choose 2 to 3 intersecting interests as your niche. Don't go too over-specialized yet, or at all, ever. Now, I've talked about niching down and building a broad audience many times in the past. I've talked about niching down in the video where you are the most profitable niche or the most profitable niche is you, and then building a broad audience in a few videos ago, The Age of the Generalist. So I'll spare you that, and you can also download my free mini course on the one-person business, link in the description. In short, you need to attract people toward the vision of the future you are leading people towards. Your content and product help them achieve goals in their life in alignment with that vision. Why do people niche down? Because they are specialists. They're going towards a specific goal with one specific skill, but that has so many negatives and cons to it. It just sets you up to be replaced or overtaken or competed with if you're a generalist with a unique combination of skills. One thing that I really love to reference here is that only slaves were expected to do one thing their entire lives. Free men or sovereign men were meant to do many things throughout their lives in alignment with living a broader goal, a more overarching universal thinking goal of living a good life and impacting others with the value they create. So that's what you're attracting people to, and your unique intersection of interests is what makes you unique toward the goal you're trying to achieve in your life. If we're both trying to achieve financial freedom, you go the budgeting route, I go the online business route, we're both going to pivot and evolve along the way and learn different skills in order to do that. And as we're passing down that knowledge, we're contributing to the value we give to humanity. So Choose 2 to 3 broad interests you want to create media content on social media around and monetize via a digital product. Break those down into subtopics so you're able to research them more effectively for idea generation, and break those down further into posts, newsletter, podcasts, and other media ideas. Then start writing to attract an audience. Not video, not something else where you need more skills. Just start with writing, then repurpose that writing down the road once you have validated ideas. I've talked about this so many times. If you don't understand how to do this or build an audience, there's a video, how to build an audience on social media with 0 followers. So start educating yourself on how to build an audience on social media. Watch tutorials, buy courses, and study the people you want to be like so you can take their ideas and emulate their work. With this, people are like, oh, I don't want to buy a course on that. I'm just going to go to college. The people in college that are teaching these courses don't have results. They haven't done it. They don't have the nuance. They're just literally taking the lessons from, they're just creating shit out of thin air so that you can form. With social media, you have to learn from people that have grown on social media. This is why so many people think it's some kind of pyramid scheme when it's just a natural hierarchy. There's a difference between a dominator hierarchy and the natural hierarchy, where in this case, it seems more like a dominator hierarchy when that's just not the case, because social media, in a sense, is like a free market. You have to learn from people that have gotten results and can actually teach you how to do it. Now, of course, understand that their method is their method, and you should probably subscribe to multiple perspectives and create your own. So you buy courses from various people, you learn from them, you understand the generalized principles that they are teaching, the overarching patterns, and then you create your own methods along the way. The thing here is that with your 1 hour a day, this is what I'm getting at. You have to write to build an audience on social media. So you spend some of that time educating yourself, you spend some of that time actually doing the work and growing the audience. That's step 1, is actually just getting the ball rolling, getting the system created to actually get your audience growing, talking about the things you want. That's going to take some time. Now, step number 5 to wrap everything up is to build the product that you want to see in the world. Once you feel like you have the hang of actually building an audience, you can start to use your 1 hour a day to build a product to monetize that audience. And of course, if you have time on the weekends, you can do that too. And I would recommend that. If you have 12 hours on the weekends, try doing that, or just work 4, 5, 6 hours on the weekends to speed things up. Now, you don't need experience to sell a product. This is something that everyone gets at. You need some skill, you need the interest, you need some knowledge, but you don't need to have sold a product before you sell a product, because that's impossible. Like, your imposter syndrome here is completely stupid. It doesn't make sense. Well, I don't have results. And it's like, how do you get results? How do freelancers get results? They start working for free, or they work for cheaper until their skill is better and they can actually deliver a service worth a higher price. So you're not starting out by selling a $1,000 product right now. You're starting out by giving it to some people for free, getting testimonials, and then putting a lower price tag on it, and then increasing that price. And if you know anything about scarcity or business, you understand that that's a better way of going about it than starting with a very large price, because you can't decrease the price, you can only increase it. And when you increase it, that's when you're gonna make the most sales, is right before it increases, because people wanna get it at the best price. And the other thing here is you don't need to create exaggerated promises and have countdown timers so that you're seen like a scammer. The market sophistication in the area has risen. You just need a believable goal that you're helping people achieve. Believable means not a stretched goal, it means a clear goal. I help people learn how to write. For my mental monetization course, the new one, I didn't choose some make 10,000, $1 million a month. I actually say I'm not gonna make you that much. I say monetize your creative work with a digital product, because that's what I'm teaching you. So as another example, let's say you want to sell a planner. Do you need experience selling planners in order to sell a planner? Do you even need experience in productivity before actually selling the thing? Do the people selling Coca-Cola, they create the product? My entire point here is you create the product, and then you sell it, and then you test it, and it's gonna suck at first, and then you iterate. That's what product development is you start with something that sucks, and you turn it into something better based off of audience feedback. So in terms of the planner, you buy a few planners and start using them to see which methods get the best results for you. You start taking the best parts of each to create a new method for better results. You test and iterate for a bit on yourself until you've solved a problem in your life. Then you manufacture, sell, and distribute to the audience you've built with content. Then you get results for your customers and continue iterating on the product until it pulls in the revenue you want it to. This doesn't change with a digital product. You can sell a printable planner, a Notion template as a planner. I've done this. Or just an ebook or a course that walks people through how to go through the productivity system. Now, if you've never done this before, I do want to reiterate that your first product is gonna suck. It's
gonna really fucking suck. Mine did, but I didn't give up. That's the entire thing, is you can only look back on I thought the products were great when I made them. And now looking back, I'm like, holy crap, dude, like those were the worst products I've ever seen in my life. They were bad. And that's why I didn't make much money. That's why people didn't like them very much. But I couldn't have created better if I didn't first create worse. Because you can talk about perfection. I want to create the perfect product. Not possible. It may even be demotivating that you have to get something crappy out before you can create something good, but it just has to happen. And if you have some skill right now, you actually may make money along the way. That's actually more likely to happen than not. The thing here with digital products is that since you're not going the physical route, you can create it, you can build it and market it and launch it much, much, much faster. And it doesn't cost anything to create. Along with this line of thought, I want to talk about this. You aren't as skilled or successful as you think you are because you haven't started selling a product. You're afraid to sell a product because you have imposter syndrome and you don't realize that selling a product is how you overcome that imposter syndrome and get results for other people. So, my advice, build the product you want to see in the world. Solve a problem in your life and sell the solution. Take inventory of products that have changed your life, shaped who you are, and influenced your behavior. I'm guessing these will fall in line with what you're already writing about to build an audience. Make those problems better by creating your own system and selling it under the most unique brand you can find, yourself. Start with information products to build cash flow. If you feel like it, turn the successful information products into another business. That's what I did with 2-Hour Writer into Cortex, my writing course and writing app. To learn more about that, watch how I'm building my startup from scratch, that video where I'm going over Cortex and how we're funding it. I'll leave it at that because you have a lot to do. Last reminder, like, subscribe. Mental Monetization is out June 3rd. The price also increases at that time, so just pay attention to that. 2-Hour Writer, free courses, free trainings, etc., podcast, book in the description. Thank you for watching.